In primetime news this evening, authorities reject claims that Jamaicans only have access to 1% of Jamaica's beaches.
Illegal sugar trade on the rise.
And local banana board monitoring new tropical disease. Good evening and welcome to primetime news. A very special welcome to our viewers on TVJ International in the Cayman Islands and online at onespotmedia.com. I'm Anthony Lug.
And I'm Kalisha Williams. Now, a little later on, we'll have the financial week, but Ricardo Chambers is here with a preview of what's to come in sports. Ricardo?
Yeah, thanks very much, Kalisha. So much to come in sports tonight, including what's happening at the World Under-20 Championships in Eugene, Oregon. As you know, Jamaica already with 2 medals. They will go for more tonight, a disqualification, a reinstatement. It's all happening in Eugene, Oregon, and we'll have the details in Primetime Sports Friday.
Thank you so much. You heard that from the man in black, right? There's a lot to talk about. There's also sports commentary and weather in this newscast. But before the break, the feedback question.
And this evening, we're asking, what was your favorite moment at the Independence Day celebrations at the Grand Gala?
You can share comments online at facebook.com/televisionjamaica and post on X at TVJ News Center.
Please stay with us. Primetime News returns right after this break.
Welcome back to Primetime News.
Special welcome to folks on onespotmedia.com and those of you watching on TVJ International in the Cayman Islands.
Up first this evening, it is a lie. That insistence from the tourism minister this evening regarding international reports and claims from local advocacy groups that only 1% of public beaches are free for Jamaicans to access.
Edmund Bartlett was speaking at the Artisan Village at the Falmouth AVF Food Festival in Trelawney yesterday. Krista Campbell reports.
Access to public beaches has been one of the most contentious issues dominating public discourse in recent times. There are even court cases on the matter involving ownership of and access to a few beaches in different parishes. At the front line of some of these legal matters and public discourse is advocacy group Jamaica Beach Birthright Environmental Movement, JABEM. The group has reported that less than 1% of Jamaica's coastline consists of publicly owned, freely accessible beaches. That 1% claim has also been headlined in international reports and has Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett on the defensive about Jamaica's almost 2,200 kilometers of coastline.
Only 29% of that represent areas with any sand or anything. And that, in fact, only 22% of all of that area, too, is possible for swimming and beach activity. And that in all of that, we have 70 beaches across Jamaica, 70 that are available to the public, 60 of which are reasonably done up. And in all of that, there are only 10 beaches that are commercial and 5 that you really pay extensively to go to.
But for their part, advocacy groups like JABEM have been more vocal in recent times over privatization of once public beaches through hotel developments or the restriction of access pathways to the sea. On that issue, the minister has vowed to work towards improvements.
We may have an issue with an owner here. We may have an issue with a process there. But we must not make the world define Jamaica as a country that denies its population of beach access, because it is wrong and it's not true. We can deal with issues that we have, we can correct, because we're going to make the beaches better and to enable it to have a more commodious arrangement.
During his 2026-27 sectoral presentation in Parliament, Minister Bartlett outlined a multi-million-dollar investment to expand access to a few public beaches in different parishes. But as for damage control to the 1% beach access narrative,
it is hard for me as the Minister of Tourism to be at BBC trying to convince them that somebody who has an axe to grind or somebody who has an advocacy arrangement is putting forward the view that our country is a country where our people cannot have access to beaches.
On March 17, 2026, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness tabled the new beach access and management policy in Parliament, which, among other things, promised increased physical access to and use of public beaches and the sea by all stakeholders. However, at least 2 advocacy groups have taken issue with the wording of sections of the policy and insist it does not address some of the fundamental issues with beach access. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
The island's sugar industry is still struggling to recover from the onslaught of Hurricane Melissa. Since the start of the year, the industry has recorded the lowest production in history, and the Sugar Industry Authority of Jamaica is this evening reporting that the illicit trade is now booming, with several people arrested in June.
Sugar on full display at the recently concluded Demby Agricultural Show in Clarendon. But behind the scenes, there is a dilemma. On one hand, the sugar industry is struggling to bounce back from the effects of Hurricane Melissa, and on the other, it is fighting to stave off pests and diseases.
This year, we had one of our lowest production, in fact the lowest on record, and one of the main reasons is Melissa. Melissa would have impacted the West Boland factory. We have 2 factories, right? One in Westmoreland, that's Frome, and one in Lower Dasville, that's Birdie Park. It affected both, but it affected the Westmoreland factory, seriously. Notably, we have the sugarcane smut disease that can lead to significant yield reductions. We have a leaf yellowing condition now of sugarcane. We still do not know the cause of that. So at present, we cannot say what the control measure is, but we have put in place some management practices.
And so there has been a 30% decline in sugar production since the start of the year. To bridge the gaps, the island has had to turn to overseas markets. But another issue is beginning to take root in the country: the illicit sugar trade.
Recently, in June, we arrested some persons that were in the possession of sugar that was not produced in Jamaica, and the Sugar Industry Authority, which we are the only ones that gives permit for the importation of sugar and the domestic trade. We found these sugar and they were arrested and charged for breaches of the Sugar Industry Control Act under Section 12.
However, the Sugar Industry Authority, SIA, said it cannot act alone. Jamaicans have to be more cautious when purchasing sugar.
To buy the sugars that are identified as sugar that is made, produced in Jamaica, and is packaged by our local marketing agents. There are sugars on the market that is imported from other countries. They are not authorized by the Sugar Industry Authority to be in the domestic market. So we cannot account for the safety of these sugars.
As the industry looks to rebound, sugar research is being prioritized, with increased investments in research on pests, diseases, and climate-resilient sugarcane.
Jamaica's Banana Board is closely monitoring the sector to avoid the tropical race for TR4 disease. The update follows a rebound of the banana industry in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. Details from Andrea Chisholm.
Banana industry is in a state of almost full recovery.
That's good news for farmers, business people, and consumers. Hurricane Melissa toppled banana and plantain trees, leaving them with just a few fingers. Following a $100 million allocation from the Agriculture Ministry, consumers can now benefit from more than a hand.
We use the help of RADA to ensure that we don't leave any stakeholder out. We make sure that farmers get the right inputs and know how to apply it, ensure that they do apply it, ensure that they follow the right practices for resuscitation.
But the resuscitation may be short-lived if farmers do not act quickly to minimize the impact of the drought. General Manager of the Banana Board, Janet Coley, says farmers need water to grow lots of high-quality bananas. As drought conditions intensify, she is reminding farmers to build out and utilize irrigation systems. But there's also another threat to the industry: diseases such as the black sigatoka disease, which affects the leaves.
It's diseases of the root. We had mocha disease that came to Jamaica in 2004, and what we have, Banana Board's responsibility is to curtail that disease to ensure it doesn't increase to more than 5%. Right now it's below, it's at 0%. We monitor where we see that, we eliminate it. We are also using that protocol to ensure that we don't get a disease that we don't yet have, which is TR4 disease. And we are the institution that is, surveying the horizon to ensure it doesn't come to Jamaica, putting practices in place and biosecurity to ensure it doesn't come. And we also monitor with the farmers and we teach them how to see it, how to recognize it, and what to put in place from now.
If the tropical race for TR4 disease affects the banana industry in Jamaica, there's hope it will not wipe out the sector.
We have a fair variety that we have been asking persons to cultivate. It's really for a green fruit, and that we have, and you see it outside, and that we have been doing for a number of years, from 2011. Now we have a new variety in the international market called Pharmasana. We just got that, and we are multiplying that out to ensure that when the disease, or should the disease, and we're hoping it never comes, that we will have a variety to counteract that.
The Banana Board is also amplifying its research and partnerships with the stakeholders to develop more value-added products like these for consumers. As production increases, there's a plan to resume exporting large quantities of bananas. Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
Still to come this evening, stakeholders worry about traffic situation in St. Anne. And in business news, U.S.-based investment company moving ahead with plans for housing development in St. Thomas. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
A practical tip for efficient and safe
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Lasca Financial Services says every dollar donated through the Support Jamaica platform following Hurricane Melissa has been fully accounted for and remitted to the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM. In a statement responding to recent Public Accounts Committee discussions, the company said the temporary withholding of a portion of donations was a standard security reserve provided for under its merchant agreement with ODPEM to guard against fraudulent transactions and chargebacks. LASCO says about 70% of donations continued to be remitted daily while the reserve was in place, and that more than 95% of the funds had been transferred by the end of March this year. The company acknowledged there was a delay in releasing the remaining funds, but says the issue was identified and corrected, insisting every dollar donated has since been remitted to ODPEM.
The Integrity Commission has appointed attorney at law Kellyanne Murdoch as its new Director of Corruption Prosecution. Ms. Murdoch, who had been acting in the position since March, was formally sworn into office on Wednesday by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen. She succeeds Renif Lawrence, who resigned from the post in March. Ms. Murdoch served in the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in Jamaica, where she held the positions of Legal Officer to the DPP, Crown Counsel and Assistant DPP. She has also served as a prosecutor in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Meanwhile, Sasheen Wright-Chin was appointed the IC's Director of Corruption Prevention, Stakeholder Engagement and Anti-Corruption Strategy. Mrs. Wright-Chin served as the Manager of Anti-Corruption Outreach and Education at the IC. The Integrity Commission said the appointments are significant steps in strengthening the Commission's leadership team, ensuring continued dedication to its mission of promoting integrity and transparency in public life.
The threat of nuclear war may feel remote to many Jamaicans, but experts say the consequences would not respect borders. At the inaugural Freedom Lecture hosted by the Caribbean Court of Justice and the Norman Manley Law School last night, legal, scientific and policy experts examined why small island states like those in the Caribbean cannot afford to ignore the growing global risks.
From war in Europe to rising tensions in Asia, the shadow of nuclear conflict continues to loom. And while the Caribbean possesses no nuclear weapons, experts warn the region would not be insulated from the consequences of any global escalation. Russia and the United States together control 90% of the world's nuclear arsenal. China, France, the United Kingdom, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea also maintain nuclear stockpiles. According to CCJ President Justice Winston Anderson, here's what confronts the world.
A handful of men with access to incredibly powerful nuclear weapons can at any time exterminate the 8 billion human beings on the face of the earth. With us would go every trace of civilization.
It's concerning because international law, he says, still has no clear answer to whether it's legal or illegal to use nuclear weapons. Additionally, the nuclear-armed nations are not party to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons.
As long as the status quo continues, it is not unfair, but perhaps unfortunate, to say that the treaty prohibiting nuclear weapons has itself been nuked.
A single detonation could trigger humanitarian, economic, and environmental consequences that extend far beyond the battlefield, disrupting global food supplies, trade, health systems, and climate patterns, with small island states like those in the Caribbean among the most vulnerable.
Recent armed conflicts in Europe and the Middle East have brought this threat to the fore. 8 billion people cannot allow themselves to be held mute and captive to the whim of a few, however benign, however malignant. This is intolerable. This cannot stand. The people of the world must awaken to the cataclysmic danger facing us in this moment. We must seek solutions, whether these be theological, technical, or legal. We must not go quietly into the dark night.
Janella Precious, TVJ News.
The prime suspect linked to last month's double killing of an in-drive operator and a student of the Portmore Community College along Upper Marl Road in St. Andrew has been charged. Quadri Clark was charged this afternoon by the Major Investigation Division. He was captured at his home along Cheatwood Avenue, Kingston 20 on Tuesday. 4 illegal firearms, including an AR-15 rifle, were seized in the operation. He has been charged with the murder of Brianna Taylor, a 21-year-old student of the Portmore Community College in St. Catherine, and 22-year-old Michael Anglin, an in-drive operator of Walkway Brayton Phase 4 in Portmore. Both were fatally shot on July 7 in an attack by a lone gunman along Upper Marl Road in St. Andrew. Investigators had reported that Mr. Anglin drove into the community to deliver a package when the suspect opened gunfire on the vehicle. A third occupant of the vehicle, a 19-year-old man, escaped injuries.
Councillors in St. Catherine are calling for the authorities to do more to get the mentally ill institutionalized. It follows what they believe is an uptick in attacks by mentally ill people across major towns in St. Catherine. Councillor for the Brayton Division, Anthony Wint, made an appeal for a public policy to be implemented at the latest meeting of the St. Catherine Health and Sanitation Committee.
When we call the mental health people, them say, boy, you have to get a family member for come sign up. Sometimes that is not available. When you call the police, they tell you so they're not trained to deal with mad people because them can't tell you when they're mentally ill.
He pointed to one case in which his division, where the mentally ill man was shot and killed by the police. Mr. Wint says that extreme approach cannot continue.
Was a nice youth who go to church, go to work. Him didn't have any family. A lady adopted him. When she died, the family put him out. He eventually get mentally ill and he end up killing a lady.
However, consultant psychiatrist for St. Catherine, Colleen Gooden, said the health department has taken steps to address those concerns.
So this whole thing about when people call the police and the police say, I'm not trained, they can no longer say that. They can go, they can talk with, they can make an assessment, they can call the nurse, or they can go with our team. So that is, to me, that is the biggest change that we need to make for them to think that this is a person we're going to, a person who is ill, and therefore it doesn't have to be, an aggressive response right away.
And healthcare facilities are increasingly turning to technology to modernize operations and improve the delivery of services. At the Main Pen Hospital in Clarendon, officials say digital transformation is helping medical teams access critical patient information more quickly and make better informed decisions.
Officials at the Southern Regional Health Authority, which oversees Main Pen Hospital, say its electronic health record system is transforming the way patient information is collected, stored, and accessed. 2 years after implementation, the technology is helping healthcare workers make easier, data-driven decisions while improving overall patient care.
We are able to do a lot of monitoring, data collection, that will guide, our treatment plan, and that sort of stuff. So it's working tremendously. It's pretty good.
The focus has now moved beyond digitizing records to using the data collected to improve efficiency, streamline operations, and enhance patient care.
Having installed the hardware and the software that now has digitization of records, we are now doing the analysis to ensure that we are using the data to make better and more efficient decisions. So for example, if it took 15 minutes for someone to be registered, we expect that it must take less than 15 minutes now that you have digitization. If a patient goes into a doctor's office and the doctor has to review a paper file and you can't find the file, it's on the computer, on the laptop in his office or her office. She can look at the patient history, what medication they're on, and treat with them quickly so you'll have more throughput. So patients can be diagnosed a lot easier, quicker, and you can see more patients.
Officials say technology must continue to support healthcare delivery as upgrades are also being made to improve the overall hospital environment.
Technology in and of itself don't make any sense if it's not used to improve efficiency. And what we're doing now is assessing the efficiency levels, and it's always going to be tweaked to make it a better working facility, but Maypen will benefit from that. The chairman was just telling me that we have a new oxygen plant that to be commissioned here at the hospital. We're building a wall around the facility for better security. And there's a park that is being done for welfare of staff and patients. So, you know, we're going to make this facility a modern facility for hospital that for both internal and external stakeholders.
Coming up in this newscast, Spain imposes border controls against Italy as the row over Ceuta migrant influx intensifies. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. We're continuing the news. 48 hours before the Zimise Beach event in Discovery Bay St. Anne, and attention is already shifting to the roads. After last year's traffic nightmare, a new traffic plan is being put in place and the police have outlined some adjustments. Last year, the Zimise Beach event, which was held during the best weekend ever, delivered the vibes, but it also brought traffic in and around Discovery Bay to a crawl, leaving hundreds of motorists frustrated.
The situation is really disgusting, man. No permit must be granted for these parties because people who are doing their job and have their business going about can't get to go about their business.
All who live at DB right now, coming from Montego Bay, have to turn back, drive Clarkstone and come back round. And that I plan right now, because everything I turn back.
This year, changes have been made. Private vehicles will not be allowed to park at the venue at Puerto Seco Beach. Commanding Officer Senior Superintendent Carlos Russell provided details.
And we'll have looked at several areas that we will be having place as it relates to park and ride to the location. So the Kaiser field will be one of the areas that will host persons coming from the west, and persons will use that as their parking, and they will be shuttled to the location. And a playfield to the east will be used for persons coming from that side.
The aim is to reduce congestion along the major roadway and keep traffic flowing. Additional resources is also being deployed to monitor traffic buildup.
We are also partnering with P-STEP, and we'll have several traffic persons posted along the roadway at the various intersections to ensure that the traffic is flowing in a good manner.
While the police have outlined their plans, stakeholders warn compliance will be important. With another large crowd expected, authorities are urging early arrival. And it's time now for responses from our friends on Facebook and X to this question: what was your favorite moment at the Independence Day celebrations at Grand Gala? Our first response comes from Samantha, who says the Prime Minister arrival. We have another comment from Tatiana who says, I enjoy the presentation from the JDF ladies, but when that drone show came on and I saw the depiction of Hurricane Melissa and the light post, I almost cried. I have another comment from Susie who says, my favorite moment was when the PM arrived and the crowd went wild. 1 PM, no matter what them I try. I have another comment from Sharon who says, seeing the First Lady step out. I have another one from Laverne who says, my favorite was the drone show. I also enjoyed the interaction between the MC and the crowd, also the gospel artists and the recognition of the reggae icons. Now keep your comments coming to facebook.com/television Jamaica and on X at TVJ News Center. The Business Day news from overseas and our bite of the week are all after the break. Please stay with us.